So the market just closed another day, and the daily candle here shows us that buyers are not stepping in even for a short term recovery. We are observing like it's still inside the range. We are not seeing much of momentum coming back in. What we would like to see is a big move. But this is dollar. We are observing dollar is in a range and it is slowly pushing higher. So while we compare dollar with Bitcoin, we actually see the local top of dollar was when the local bottom of the Bitcoin came in. Now, the next time when Bitcoin tops out the local top, we actually see dollar making a local bottom. So now we understand how they actually move. So if dollar is pushing higher, like you can see here, the trend, a possible double bottom or at least a retest of the previous range, if that's coming in, more or less, this is the thought process, right? We need to see this going down. So while that happens, we zoom in. We really want to see like, okay, that's at least the medium term trend, but what's going to happen in between? And that's where we actually see the RSI suggesting us the fact that it may actually bounce first, right? And that's one of the reasons why we actually follow that. But in the macro thought process, a bounce in RSI like that can actually mean the price can come here before it actually bounces. So that is kind of a general thought process for Bitcoin. But again, we are looking at XRP. We are really looking at XRP because the thought process here existing in the market is still the same. We may actually drop to 0.2. That is still live in the market, right? So while I look at that, I would say, okay, while we went up, the market showed us something like this, which is clear. We were consistently making lower highs. Now, yeah, we got a wick to the upside, but again, the close was below that range. Now, you guys get the point. Now, you look at what the hell is happening right now. You're kind of watching the opposite of what just happened last time. You went to the upside, you trended to the upside, higher highs, and then you got this pattern. You had a base over which you did consistent lower highs. So right now you're trending lower with consistent moves to the downside, and then you made a base where it is acting as a resistance. So you are right now moving above this rising trend line. So you are actually making higher lows consistently. So while we compare this scenario, we kind of get the idea, okay, there is something there, right? So to get a better perspective, we'll take this chart, we'll zoom in, we'll invert that. So we want to learn like, okay, what the hell is the market showing us? What are the odds? Because while you look at that, you now need to get a validation going in different pairs. So you look at the XRP Bitcoin pair and it kind of move in that direction, showing, okay, that's still the possibility. Now, yes, that's a short-term chart, so you want to see the macro one, right? So you actually go into the macro levels to understand what's happening and what's possible, right? Understanding what's possible in the market is important before you actually jump in, because the fundamentals kind of show you like there are crazy times coming ahead, but before that, we'll have some surprise in the market. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this crypto world. We actually see a lot of things happening, right? There's a lot happening in the market right now. So we jump back first, especially into the current narrative. So we actually identify that, okay, this is happening right now in front of us. Great. So the banking executives are actually cashing out. That's not a small thing. And look at all these companies. You actually see like, all these individuals having positions in that company with, more or less great knowledge, the information. And most of them are actually converting. Most of them are moving out. Now, they do understand like, okay, there is something happening in between. What are they doing? Why are they actually converting this? So while you are in the market, you have like, options which are convertible, the warrants which are convertible. You have a lot of different financial tools. But on the other side, we do understand like, okay, this is still happening. The debt bubble is being ballooned as much as possible. And then you get Kramer talking about this scenario. So I'm like, okay, that really doesn't look good. Fine. Now take that narrative and understand like, okay, that's what the market is giving us. The fundamental side, the news, the narrative. So we really want to see like, okay, what are we watching? Right? So we actually saw this pattern here. Now we are zooming in. Now we are inverting that chart. So while we invert that chart, this is that range. We come down, we bounce first to hit a resistance, which was the previous support. Great. You get rejected, you actually go back down, and then you come back, make slow movements to retest that level. Now jump back to the current scenario. You actually come back down, you bounce off, and you get rejected at a point which happens to be the previous level of support. So now that's consistent here. You get the support turned into a resistance. Great. Now you come back down, you slow down, you again make consistent moves, slowly grinding back up and get rejected at the same level, which happens to be the previous level of resistance, turning into the previous support. So now you get the same here. You play around a couple of times, you move up, you hit the same level, and you get a reversal. Now that reversal happens to be coming back to test the previous level. Not here, not the trend line. You are actually now within that range testing. So most likely, we may actually see the price coming back close to 0.4. That's still okay. That's still cool. The positive view of the market right now is that, okay, Bitcoin is slowing down. We agree that fact. The pattern kind of gives you the idea like, okay, we are having a falling wedge. We are actually breaking to the upside. Now, yes, this is just a medium-term scenario, short to medium-term scenario, while we are looking at all this happening right now in the last couple of months. So we actually have to zoom out, look like what the last couple of years shows us. Say we are going to break higher from this level. What does that actually mean? Your roof is somewhere here, which happened to be a roof last October. Now you go back all the way and you see like the levels are consistent. You've been flirting with that level for some time. Even during 2021 rally, you kind of, barely went above that, but you reached that level as a resistance. So now we are like, okay, fine. What can we learn more? Why are we focusing more on this level of divergence happening here? Price is making consistent low and the RSI suggesting, no, I'm going to the other direction. Great. So we actually go in and we are looking on a weekly chart and we see last time before the actual run up in 2021, you actually saw a weekly chart suggesting you there is a divergence happening. Price puts in lower low at a time when the RSI is making consistent highs. After which you started off that movement to the upside. So right now, when you come into the market and you see that it is making lower lows, agreed, but the RSI is suggesting you that, okay, I'm moving the different way. Now, yes, agreed, this is a daily chart and the last one I showed is a weekly chart. So now you have to actually see like, okay, how does the daily chart really reflect on this? And then we actually see last time the daily chart actually showed us such a divergence, lower low in the price and double bottom possibility on the RSI, you actually bounced up. That was a recent bounce in the price of XRP where we went up to 0.6, close to that range. Right? So right now, most likely we're going to look at a short-term run like that. Maybe 0.7, maybe 0.8, maybe just below $1. We are still looking for something evolving in the market. So now the question comes out like, okay, XRP BTC is showing like it can go higher. So either the Bitcoin has to drop significantly and XRP should stay where it is, or again, Bitcoin is slowly moving up, but XRP is rallying way faster than that. That's the only scenario while we observe that. So the general thought process of what Bitcoin is doing compared to the market and what the narrative is, kind of it is at least a little bit clear for us, right? We're thinking like, okay, that's the possibility. So while we zoom out, now we have a question on our hand. The daily chart in Bitcoin is suggesting you the fact that it is making a pattern, a possibility like this, right? So even if the pattern remains valid, you can still revisit this range again. So you can come back below 26,000 and still have the same pattern valid in the market. Now, you go on to a weekly chart, and that's where it actually becomes a little bit more interesting here. Because on the weekly, you are still observing the fact that, okay, you're putting in higher highs on the RSI and the price. So you're not actually getting a macro divergence, which suggests you're going to go to the downside, right? Last time when XRP ran higher, we got it on the macro level. We saw the divergence on the macro. Right now, for Bitcoin, it's on the micro where we actually observe, yeah, we made a higher high and the RSI showed us a double top possibility. Great. So that's why we were talking about the downside possibility from last 3-4 weeks. Now, while we look at that, okay, this now plays out like, okay, on the weekly, we are still bullish. So we are still looking for a trend to the upside where your trend line looks like this. Even if you come back down towards $23,000, you still follow a trend line, which is now forming a new pattern, which is now playing out on the new era of 2023 bull movements. Because a lot of people right now imagine the market is about to drop, the market is about to go lower. Say you hold XRP, great. Now we just checked XRP to Bitcoin. Now take that perspective and come on here with Bitcoin. Great. Now we are looking at Bitcoin, and one of the easiest things which you can actually see here or say for the time being is that the market is showing you actually are reversing, right? You've actually seen this pattern many times, so you don't actually have to repeat this or go through that process. You kind of have the idea the market is slowing down and then moving back up. So the trend was to the downside, the movement was to the downside. You just change that trend. So if it's for a trend line pattern, you're actually observing that the market was moving down like this. And right now you get a movement above that. Now, completely agree that, a lot of different people will have different opinion. They would ask like, okay, why should I position the line here? Why can't I position it here? Why can't I position it here? It's all fine. You just go on to a line chart which uses the daily close levels, right? And then you position it with daily close to the daily close here, connecting a range which you see. And now it's like acting as a support. Yeah, for sure, you'll actually have to use a zone to better understand the market, because the market is always volatile. Market participants like you, me, and others who are here in the market, it's irrational behavior in the market. Let's put it that way. Now, you actually go back to a candlestick chart and you really want to add on XRP for that matter. We'll add on XRP to that of Bitcoin. And we want to actually see the same duration in XRP and Bitcoin. So we're going back, zooming out as much as possible, taking them side by side. And we want to actually put that argument to think like, okay, while Bitcoin was going up, what was XRP doing, right? It's in front of our eyes. We can actually see the fact that, yeah, this did happen, right? We are observing the fact that Bitcoin was going up, XRP was going up, Bitcoin was coming back down, but the difference is it actually put a higher high in the corrective structure while it started going down. Great. Now you see XRP and Bitcoin going down at a time when Bitcoin is actually reversing back with the higher highs. You're still trending higher. There is no doubt in that scenario. The question, however, remains here, like, okay, what are we really doing here? Can XRP really break this to the upside? So while we observe the fact that, okay, Bitcoin actually shows it has a possibility to drop, and we just saw like on the XRP Bitcoin side, there is a possibility it's going to move bullish. XRP is going to move bullish. So if Bitcoin is about to drop, either XRP can come test 0.53 for sure, or break that level and move higher. So we now go back to understand like, okay, if Bitcoin is reversing, you do have a possibility that the market is actually about to show you positive signs. But is that same for all the different assets? I really don't think so, because when I'm moving on, looking at Ether, the market actually suggests you that it had a recent base, which was the previous resistance turned into a support. Now we are breaking that and going lower, right? And that kind of gives you an idea like, okay, if you actually take a step back, look for this local highs towards the local high here, RSI suggests you like, okay, that is a divergence. We should go lower. And that bottom is going to be the panic bottom, which I would say, if the price is about to drop here, close to this range, or at least close to 1,400, 1,500, that's going to create panic in the market. Now, yes, you can still draw a trend line, see how long or how deep this is going to go, and that can be panic in the market for sure. Great. So now, while you actually analyze the market, you also have to look at like, okay, if XRP is about to move, it should move with the market. Most likely scenarios like that. And here we are looking at the altcoin market. And the altcoin market is not actually making a trend line like we just saw in Ether. It's actually showing a double bottom rather than a rising trend line, right? So we do see some kind of difference happening in the market here. We do have a range of resistance, which the price respected a couple of times, and now we are slowing down. So while we are slowing down, the question now becomes like, okay, how low are we actually going to go, right? That is going to be one of the simple questions which we all have. But right now, the easiest way to think about that is like, okay, we are breaking this range, we are moving lower. The next level of support is going to be somewhere here, after which we are looking for the next level. Now go back to Ether. Now keep this chart in your mind and look for what you're observing here. Clearly, you actually see the market actually putting in a wave structure, which is clear. You actually get to see the wave 1, the wave 2, the wave 3, after which you are actually now correcting back down. And now that correction happens to show you like, okay, now I'll change the color for that matter so it's actually a little bit easier. So you come back down and most likely this is what you are going to see. So let's put the correction on red times. It's panic, bled in the market, right? So now put that in a way, the altcoin market is about to drop. Now go back into the Ether chart. Similar thought process. You don't have much of a difference. Right now, when we are moving up, you have completed your moves in the market, which happens to be the bullish three-wave structure. After which, we are now looking forward for a corrective action in the market. Now, yes, it can be deeper, it can create panic, but we just understand, okay, we just talked about the altcoin market, and that altcoin market suggests it's going to come towards this time frame, this range at least. So we do see some more room to the downside in the market. Great. So that's on a daily chart, which actually showed us all those divergence negative, right? Now we go back. We actually go back into a macro chart, where the macro chart is still looking like, okay, we are still moving on. We are still slowly trending higher. If we are about to come back down to this range, what does that really mean? Say for Ether, while we drop this trend line, weekly trend line is about to hold. So maybe in a couple of weeks, we're going to see that volatility coming lower, pushing the price down. So now going back to XRP in the same thought process, keep that same. Okay, if Ether is about to drop, if Bitcoin is about to drop, and XRP Bitcoin shows you, okay, XRP may be a little bit better than the market, we may still see a drop, right? When they are dropping 15%, XRP may drop 5 to 8% if that remains the case. So now we are again following back to the trend line. We would like to see where the trend line is moving, and we're trying to stay as close as possible to understand if there is any divergence forming, if we are about to break this pattern. We want to actually understand that a little bit ahead of time, because right now, while we go through a lot of these assets, there's a lot of notes which I'm actually giving to the community, because here there are a lot of different assets which are showing us the possibility, like what we just talked about in XRP. There are some assets which are showing you the macro narrative changing. Right now, if you actually go back in history and look at XRP, you actually have some of these assets showing you it's making this pattern, which means last time if this pattern showed you such a bigger base here and it went up parabolically, then you most likely have some of these assets preparing for something similar. So if the market is about to do that, now yes, as market participants, it's on us to look for where opportunity lies, right? While the market actually went up, it is positive. Like generally, it's good. It's great to see the market trending to the upside. But the issue, however, remains when you're going up, people become so much euphoric. They forget that, okay, there is going to be a correction coming in. That's where things go negative. And if it's me, I would actually put that perspective and say, like, okay, now the market participants are bullish and the market participants kind of believe like, okay, there is a possibility that the price may actually come down here and bounce back up. That's a bullish scenario. That's a positive, great scenario to watch, right? So now, as I'm looking back in history, I would say like, okay, we did get a range here, which was strong. And below that, we had another range where we came back down, which the market actually showed you like, okay, there was something different happening during that time frame. So while we actually zoom in, yeah, it's hard to actually say like Bitcoin is about to drop back below $15,000 at this perspective. Right now, what the market shows us is not exactly like that. So staying bullish on the long term and trying to find opportunities or at least buying zones in the short term is going to be really helpful. Keep the panic away. You may still see the price drop hard, come back to like 22,500, 22,000. Because when the price drops, the panic, the fear seeps in. And the pendulum doesn't actually stop in between from fear to greed, greed to fear. You actually swing really fast. Because if you actually look at the first level of drop here, it was fine, right? And then the panic started coming in. So it was the fear pushed into the market, which actually turned into the panic. But what happened after that? You just recovered, went directly back up. That's exactly what we are most likely going to watch here. So guys, stay updated, stay aware of what the market is showing you. If you received value, please do hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done that already. And if you are looking for further updates on a lot of these assets, if you do have them in your portfolio, now you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.